Just for your information, there's an estimated 30 to 60 million barrels of oil sloshing around in ships out off the coast of Iran, waiting to be sold in the market. And as soon as we lift those sanctions and the Iranian crude hits the market, the price of oil is going to plummet. And when it does, there are going to be a lot of people hurting in America. But that's for a later day. But we ask ourselves, the news has been filled with stories of this German Airbus that just suddenly crashed into the Alps coming out of, they were going from Spain, I think, to Dusseldorf, I believe, in Germany. At least 700 people are on the scene looking for clues right now, trying to find out why that plane plunged so precipitously. What went on?
Yes, killed 150 people, and French investigators have cracked open the badly damaged black box from the jet. And right now, they don't believe it was a hijacking or terrorism. Heather Sells has the story.
This is a tragic moment for Lufthansa, and it's really a dark day in our history.
Lufthansa is the German company that owns the Germanwings Airbus passenger jet that crashed in this remote and mountainous area of the French Alps. The crash killed all 150 people on board, including 6 crew members and 2 babies. There were also 16 high school students and 2 teachers from the German town of Haltern returning from an exchange program. The Germanwings aircraft took off from Barcelona after 10 Tuesday morning on a 2-hour flight to Dusseldorf. It had just reached a cruising altitude of 38,000 feet when suddenly it started a steep descent without a call to air traffic control.
Looking at the rate of descent and the profile we're aware of, it appears to be an intentional maneuver. Why, we don't know.
Investigators say the possible causes could have been a quick depressurization, a lack of oxygen, meaning the pilots could have become incapacitated, or they could have been overcome by smoke in the cockpit, making it difficult to see or operate the plane. A third possibility, the pilots were trying to deal with a problem and following emergency protocol to lose altitude and work on the issue.
Normally what you do is you fly the airplane first, and possibly they're dealing with heavy smoke, fire in the airplane. It may be that their priorities have not gotten to communicating yet.
For now, the search for answers as to what happened on the Airbus A320 continues, and officials expect this search and recovery mission to be lengthy because the crash site in the French Alps is so vast and remote. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, I'm a pilot, an erstwhile pilot. They have so many controls now on these planes that sometimes the controls can take over. If the planes are on autopilot, suddenly a computer starts flying the plane. And it's a real possibility that something in that autopilot screwed up and grabbed control of the airplane and started a descent, and the pilots were fighting to correct what this machine was doing to it, and it pushed the thing into a crash. That, you know, I'll add that to the other speculation because nobody knows right now, but it was a great tragedy. Well, in other news, one of our key allies in the war on terror is being overrun by rebels. And that could be a big setback for America in the battle against radical Islam. Ephraim Grimm has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's Ephraim.
Pat, the president of Yemen has fled from his palace today, escaping as Shiite rebels moved in. The rebels announced they've now seized an air base where U.S. troops and European advisors once assisted in the battle against al-Qaeda in Yemen. That air base is just 35 miles from the latest temporary headquarters of Yemen's president. The base was crucial in the U.S. drone campaign targeting al-Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula. U.S. forces evacuated the base several days ago. The CIA's ability to collect intelligence in Yemen has now been greatly cut back. And Reuters reports Saudi Arabia is building up its military forces on the border of Yemen. Pat, where do you see this going?
Well, I see it going exactly the way it is. It's going to be a clash with Saudi. You know, I was flying the right seat of an airplane coming out of Africa, and we were supposed to fly across Saudi Arabia to get to a port north of there. And as we approached the Saudi mainland, a voice said, divert. And I mean, you only have so much gas, and it's late at night, and they tell you to divert, and they say, do not cross Saudi airspace, or we will shoot you down. And we were on a civilian airplane. And I think right now the Saudis are feeling that they're being encroached upon. You look at the relationship of Yemen to Saudi Arabia, and it gets to be perilous. And the king, the Al Saud dynasty, is very shaky, and there are enough dissidents in that country to bring down the ruling family. So they know that they've got to do something to defend themselves, and we might see an all-out war on the Arabian Peninsula before this thing is over. Ephraim?
Pat, falling gas prices are good for consumers and the economy, but they're proving to be bad news for North Dakota. 2 years ago, the state government had a surplus of cash, but now the price of the state's oil has been cut in half in the past year, and there are barely half as many oil rigs running as a year ago. That's not enough to keep the state's oil industry running at its current capacity. But oil explorers still have faith in the future of the industry, as competition is still intense for leases to look for oil under land owned by the state. And others think oil prices will rebound as well. Billionaire T. Boone Pickens, who is a major figure in the industry, believes oil could reach $100 a barrel by the end of next year. Pat, in light of what you said at the start of the newscast, do you agree?
Who would I be to stand in the way of T. Boone? He is a smart guy, and he's got a whole lot more money than I do. So he is an expert. But I tell you, I think he's blowing a little smoke on this one. He probably wants to get his own interest up, and so he's pumping the stocks to get them up. But I don't see it. We're awash with oil right now. And I know there are a lot of rigs going down, and a lot of people aren't producing, but nevertheless, what I said, when Iran, we know, we bring 1 million barrels a day on, but those stored reserves, and also there are other companies that have stored reserves, and $60 would be closer to it, 100. I just don't think so, but who am I to criticize a great oil man like T. Boone Pickens, Ephraim?
Indeed he is. Well, the State Department never had a permanent inspector general while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. The Wall Street Journal reports today that President Obama never put forward a nominee during Clinton's tenure, leaving only an appointee who had never been confirmed by the Senate. The Inspector General serves as a watchdog who is supposed to find misconduct and waste. The Journal points out the department has been criticized for failing to archive the emails of Mrs. Clinton and other officials. The report comes amid questions about Mrs. Clinton not using an official email address while she was Secretary of State and refusing to turn over her email computer server to an independent inspector. The more we learn about this, the worse it gets. Pat?
I think it's something that's going to take her down. I don't see her surviving. The problem is, as far as the Democrats go, they really don't have any worthy contenders. They've got a tax raiser up in Maryland who was not exactly a hero, and they switched parties in Maryland because of him. He's talking about running. I doubt if that's going to make it. We have a fellow here in Virginia who was a senator, who retired, and he might be an attractive candidate, but probably not. The other lady up there in Massachusetts is thought of somewhat of a liberal, a left-wing radical. So who they got? The Democrats must be pulling their hair out right now, thinking, wait a minute, we put all of our chips on that particular number, and it came up, you know, black. And a zero, double zeros. We'll see what happens. Ephraim?
Pat, recent tensions between the Obama administration and in Israel are contributing to a rise in anti-Semitism around the world. That's the warning from Ronald Lauder, the president of the World Jewish Congress. Speaking to a congressional committee this week, Lauder said when people around the world see the best friend of Israel is having problems with them, it provokes negative attitudes toward Jews. He also warned unless the U.S. acts decisively to defeat Islamic terrorists in the Middle East and Africa, the flame of radical Islam could stretch across all of Europe as well. One of the most significant periods in Israel's history came during the Jewish exile described in the books of Daniel, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. We are now learning more about that time from ancient artifacts that are now going on display for the very first time. Chris Mitchell brings us that story now from Jerusalem.
By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept for Zion. Those are the words of Psalm 137, written when King Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and carried the Judeans away captive to an area that's present-day Iraq. It's also the name of a new exhibit at the Bible Lands Museum that Chief Curator Filip Vukosavovich calls an incredible puzzle.
What we do here is for the first time tell a complete story of the Babylonian exile from approximately 604 BC when Nebuchadnezzar comes for the first time to the land of Israel up to 539 when Cyrus and the Persians conquer Babylon and release all the exiles.
Much of the information for this exhibit came from these clay tablets written in Akkadian in ancient cuneiform script. On display for the first time ever, they tell of daily life in Al-Yahudu, the city of Judah in Babylonia.
Probably next to the Dead Sea Scrolls and the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is the most important documentation that has ever been revealed.
Museum director Amanda Weiss says it also opens a major chapter of Jewish history.
It's the thread that ties us to our ancestors.
Here we see an ancient tablet next to a modern one that tells the story. The texts talk about real people, exiled Judeans, and everyday life from rental agreements to tax issues.
One of these people is Haggai, son of Ahikam. I have actually chosen Haggai simply to narrate the story of the Babylonian exile that has never been told before.
In the exhibit, Haggai tells the story from the first exiles all the way to Babylon in 3 animated movies. Vukosavovich says he met Haggai in these texts.
I know his brothers, I know his father, I know his grandfather, grandmother. You know what? I know his great-grandfather. All of this through these new texts which nobody has seen before.
Weiss says one of her favorite parts of the exhibit is the model of the Al-Yahudu village.
We actually are showing interactively a scene in daily life, and you can see plowing the fields and rowing down the canals and the rivers and people cooking in their home fires in the evening and the date palm trees, and you get a sense of the cycle of life.
Part of what the tablets show is that the exiles lived prosperous lives and followed Jeremiah's command. Build houses and live in them, and plant gardens and eat their produce. Multiply there and do not decrease. And seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will have welfare.
So when in 539 Cyrus the Great and the Persians conquer Babylon, Cyrus simply releases all the exiles. Many decide to stay, like Haggai and his family. They had established lives. They had rich lives. They had their families. They had their schools. And only in 1950, 1952, following the establishment of the State of Israel, the state of Iraq simply expelled thousands and thousands of Jews. So just as they went with almost nothing, they returned with almost nothing. So that is a full circle of the Jewish people that were exiled and then returned after 2,500 years.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Bible Lands Museum, Jerusalem.
Turning to health news, researchers have come up with a new way to make chocolate healthier. A team from the University of Ghana have modified the way cocoa is turned into chocolate. The way it's done now, some of the antioxidants in cocoa beans are lost. But the researchers came up with better ways to roast and store the cocoa, and that preserves more of the healthy elements. The antioxidants can help with blood flow, memory, your heart, cardiovascular system, and more. And a side benefit, the new process could also make chocolate taste sweeter. Time reports the researchers also say people should eat dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate because it has more antioxidants and less sugar. But Pat, we don't need Time magazine to tell us that. You've been saying it a long time.
I've been saying it on the 700, all they had to do, but I am convinced chocolate is health food. And I like chocolate. Lowers your blood pressure, makes you feel healthier. It's really good, but the milk chocolate is not. It's got too much sugar in it. It's got a lot of butter in it. It's not. It's different. But when you got 72 to 80% cocoa, that's the good stuff.
And also, you can buy the baking chocolate when you make brownies.
Yeah.
If you buy buy it made with alkali, then it's more alkalizing on your body. And not because chocolate's very acidic. So people that are trying to watch their acid, they should go for if it says made with alkali. There's a lot of well, I won't say the names of the different ice creams, but definitely like Haagen-Dazs, and their chocolate ice cream is made with alkali. So. I've done my research. You have really studied it, darling. I am overwhelmed.
We
just keep getting more and more good reasons to eat it.
But women like chocolate a lot.
Well, you know what they say about chocolate. Never mind.
I know what they say. We won't get into all of that.